Greetings, friends and future friends. Today I want to show you something really cool with the Korg Pa5x. I'm going to show you how you can use the 16-track MIDI recorder. Yep, that's right, 16 tracks of MIDI you can record individually. Now, what you can do once you do that is convert it to a 16-track MIDI file. And if you watch one of my previous videos, you'll see how you can turn that MIDI file into a MP3. Because the Korg Pa5x recognizes it as a song. You bring it up, 16 tracks of MIDI, you can mix it, you can do all these cool things with it, and then create the MP3 file. So let's get started. Okay, let's get started. I'll show you how I use the sequencer to multi-track record with the Korg Pa5x. Now, before we get started and I zoom into the screen, I want you to know when I say I hit the record button, that's this button over here. This is the record button to send you into record mode. This button is the play and record button when you're actually going to record something in the Korg Pa5x. So you're going to push that and it's going to start things going. You hit this, you go back to the start, and then you push this again and you can record other tracks. The other button, of course, is the exit button up here, and then the file button is way up here. Now, what I'm going to play on the keyboard is nothing big deal. It's going to be a simple E minor thing. Now, what we're going to do is now I'm going to zoom in so we can look closely at the screen here. Okay, we got a nice tight shot of the screen. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit the record button. And that brings us up to this menu, and we're going to touch New Song. Yeah, we know that. We don't want to save anything. Okay, now we're in multi-track recording in the sequencer. This is 16 tracks. You can see song 1 through 8. And if you look down there, now you have tracks 9 through 16. So we'll go to track 1. And track 2 is the bass. Okay, now, you know one thing? I don't like that bass. I want it to go lower. So we can hit this. We'll go to the menu. Let's go to bend tuning. Let's go to the bass. Let's drop that down. 12 half steps. And I think the volume's a little loud, so let's back it off a little bit. And the EQ, let's back off the EQ a little bit. Awesome. Okay, now, one thing you have to remember when you're bringing up this mixer and you go to record, when you're playing this back and you're recording that track, if you're recording this track, any of these parameters will change. And in other words, if I was playing it back and I wanted to, increase the low end, it will actually automate that. So one thing you want to do is any settings you make on that sound, get it before you record it. Because if you record it, I'll just give you an example. If we go back and I say hit record, and we're going to start to record. Now, the other thing about recording too, you're going to hear it count in. I don't like to count in on the 4th beats because the 4 beats, sometimes if you don't hit it right, the machine is not recording. And sometimes that initial beat can get messed up. I've always counted all my years in the studio, I've always came in on 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I find that it works that way. But so what we got to do is set the metronome. We want it on all the time. We want for me, I want the tempo to be standard. High, we're going to leave it on high. So what we're going to do is we're going to start. And we should have the bass line. But before we get started, I want to show you a mistake. So in playing that back, and I've made this mistake, but just say playing it back. Let's go, we'll get it back to the beginning. We'll hit record. And then now we know the volume is at 87, but watch this. Okay, did you see what we just did there? We actually automated, because now watch. Can you see that volume going down? So there's two things that right off the bat you can use this sequencer. Now again, I'm going to go up here and delete everything, delete that track. And the other thing is, when you're using the sequencer, delete current track means you're going to delete the track that's selected. So if you come over here and you're working on this track and you hit that delete, all the information from that track is going to be eliminated. So one thing you can do if you get into doing that, if you want to pan, because you can actually go into the mixer and change things from EQ, effects, descends, the tune bending. And you can actually change that. Like if I go in there again, and now I think I just deleted it, but let's go back, exit out of this, and we'll just do this again. Okay, now watch this. This is pretty cool. So we already went into the bending, and we know we changed the bending. But if we did this, see, we have the bend selected. Now watch. Now, what we just did, what we have just done there is change the bending while we're recording. We had recorded the track, and now we made an adjustment to it. If we go back, it went back to 12, minus 12. So what does that show you? That shows you that not only can you go back here to the beginning and record a track with notes, you can also record and automate settings. Any of these settings, from EQ, bend tuning like I've always done, all that stuff can be automated in that recording. So if there's something that you really want to create a sequence and you want to drop the volume in that part, or if you want to increase that part, you can actually create that while you're recording. So what I would do is record the track, then change the automation. Now, the only downfall of this, and I'll show you this when we do the drums, is when you hit this delete track, yes, make sure. Now, if we bring up that mixer again, the bass track has been erased. Also, all the automation of that track has been erased. So when you delete that track, you go back there and you delete that track, everything is deleted. So remember that. So two things to take away from this first part of this video. One, you can record tracks, but you can also record automations to those tracks. But remember, when you create that track and you create an automation, and that automation of volume, tone, pan, or whatever isn't right, you can't go back and change that. You can probably go back into event erase. You know, we can go back into the event. Now, you probably could do that if you wanted to. Now, let's do this again. Now, what you can do is go to menu and bring up event, track 2, and here is the event. So theoretically, you could go in here and find out where the volumes, in other words, the volumes of the each note. You can see this volume 2 is actually the volume, the velocity of that track, and you could actually program that in there, and then all these tracks. So theoretically, if you did automate something and you didn't like it, you could probably come back into the event edit, which would then be just clicking menu, go to event edit, and there you go. You have everything that's going on in that track. So let's go exit out of this, go back to here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go, we know drums are on 10. And let me see here, find out where the drum is. There we go. Let's see if I can get this. All right, I think we'll try it. Ready? Now, what I found out that, remember, as I've said in the previous, when we were recording the bass line, if I don't hit this right, then I have to go back and start all over again. Now, what I've found to create a killer drum track is we got the bass and snare going down pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to track 11, go back to mixer, and we'll go to main. And I'm going to change this to drums. I'm going to change that to drums, and I think it was a pop kit ambient. Exit out of that. So now track 11, exit again. We're back to this record mode. I'm going to go back to that manual. It keeps going back there. Okay, so now what I have done is create another drum track on track 11, which then I can get my... Because I find that sometimes I don't get that hi-hat the right way. And if I record it on track 10 and I don't get that hi-hat perfect, I have to start all over again. I'm going to have to lay the bass and the snare down and the hi-hat. But I found out if you go to track 11, create the same drum kit, and now I can hit this hi-hat. You know, I don't like that. Let's get rid of that. Let's try that again. I hit that one note too many times. Cool. Okay. Now let's stop and let's go back to, I think it was track 8. Sounds pretty cool. And let's try and record that. Now we're going to track 8. And track 8, what is track 8? Track 8 is a saw synth. Okay, let's exit out of that. And let's hit record again. Cool. So let's see what we got so far. was it, track 6, I think we had a cool synth too. Or was it 5? No, I think it's maybe 7. No, we went 6. Okay, let's try this. We'll really put some icing on the cake. And there you go. We just recorded. Let's hear what it sounds like. Okay, cool. We got a nice little track going. So what's the next step? We go over here. We hit Save Song. We go hit thing. I'm going to go Save Song 01. Wink. Hit OK. Save. And now, if we exit out of this, yes. Boom. There is our new song, Song 1. And we can see that we have MIDI. It's showing, if you look over here, you're going to see, okay, it's player 2. It's going to be a style. But if you go over to here, you can see it says MIDI. So, and there's our song. But hey, you know what? That one horn sound is just too loud. So what are we going to do? We're going to go over to Mixer. And what was that? It was on 8, right? Now we can change. One thing you got to think about when you're recording your sequence, don't be too concerned with the end product. It's mostly what you want to do is get the right notes down and the right tempo and all that. Because when you go into and have this new song, now what I can do is I can bring up my mixer. I can EQ all these tracks. I can make this sound really cool the way I want it to. Like I just dropped the track, that tight brass sound, I dropped it down. And then of course, if you go up here, you could do, down here, save song, and now you've saved the song. So now it's going to show that that's volume now on track 6 is 73. So that's really killer. What you can do is record the sequence and then boom, it all comes up in a MIDI track, comes up like this. You can mix it, you can make effects, you can do whatever you want. And if we wanted to change the tempo, if we really wanted to, we could change that brass to go higher or lower. Anything that the mixer would allow us to do, we can do. And if we go to File, you're going to see right there, New Song MIDI. What's happening now is that is now a MIDI file. So when the Korg Pa5x brings it up, let's exit back, it actually shows us that as a MIDI file. So basically, in this keyboard, there is no audio that has been recorded. And if you go back, if you wanted to turn this into an MP3, you could watch one of my previous videos. You could actually turn this into an MP3 file right away. But what you have is a 16-track MIDI song. We could have went more in depth with more instruments, but I just wanted to show you the basics, how you can go about it, and how easy it is to create a little riff. And of course, you can change it to an MP3 or whatever you want and take it from there. So that's how the sequencer works. That's how I use it. I think later on I'll show you how you can Later on, I'll show you what it looks like when you take this MIDI file and bring it into your software. Different software platforms will look at it differently, but basically what that is a 16-track MIDI file. And it's right there. You can see it. And if we just go back out here, let's say we hit styles again, yada, yada, come back and we're hitting style. Okay, we're back to a style again. And then we go, hey, we want to hit a song. Boom, come, there's our new song MIDI. Bump, bring it back up again, and there it is. So there you go. How to use the sequencer in the Korg Pa5x. 16 MIDI tracks you can record individually to create that killer riff. Then once you create it, you can export it as a MIDI file or convert it to an MP3 file. Oh, and watch one of the videos I've shown previously. It'll show you how to convert it to an MP3 file. So take care, my friends, and thanks for watching.